Let's have a closer look at Rawls's two principles before getting on to how he argues for them. So the first principle is that each person has the same indefeasible claim to a fully adequate scheme of equal basic liberties, which scheme is compatible with the same scheme of liberties for all. What are these basic liberties? They are political liberty, the right to vote and hold public office, freedom of speech and assembly, liberty of conscience and freedom of thought, and freedom of the person, property rights, freedom from arbitrary arrest, and also freedom from psychological oppression and physical assault. Well, that's the first principle. Here is the second, which comes in two parts. So the second principle is social and economic inequalities are to satisfy two conditions. First of all, fair equality of opportunity. And second, the difference principle. The inequalities have to be to the greatest benefit of the least advantaged members of society. So here's rules on the first bit, fair equality of opportunity. Assuming that there is a distribution of natural assets, those who are at the same level of talent and ability and have the same willingness to use them should have the same prospects of success, regardless of their initial place in the social system. Okay, what about the second part of the second principle, the difference principle? And this is the one that bears most strongly on the issue of the week, whether inequality itself is unjust. So this is rules on the difference principle. The higher expectations of those better situated are just if and only if they work as part of a scheme which improves the expectations of the least advantaged members of society. The intuitive idea is that the social order is not to establish and secure the more attractive prospects of those better off, unless doing so is to the advantage of those less fortunate. So maybe that's a bit abstract. Let me illustrate the difference principle with a particular example. So here we've got society divided into four classes of people: the alphas, the betas, the gammas, and the deltas. And there are two possible arrangements, let's say, A and B. And this graph shows the distribution of lifetime wealth among these four classes according to arrangement A and according to arrangement B. So you can see that there's much more wealth under A than there is under B. Further, you can see that everyone is at least as well off under A than under B, apart from the deltas. The deltas are slightly worse off. Never mind about the relative numbers of people in these classes. We can just divide them up equally. Now, from the point of view of the difference principle, which arrangement is more just? Is it arrangement A or arrangement B? Please press K and answer that question. Got it? Well, the answer is that B is better than A. B is better than A because it maximizes the income of the least advantaged. If we imagine moving from arrangement B to arrangement A, then even though the alphas, betas, and gammas will be at least as well off after the move, the gammas will have dropped, which means that the A arrangement is not to the advantage of the least well off compared to B. So B is greater than A as far as justice goes, which you might think is, depending on just how well the deltas are doing, a not obviously correct result. Rawls's main argument for his two principles is that they would be chosen in the original position, a hypothetical situation in which you don't know your social class, race, gender, religion, moral convictions, talents, or goals in life. You do know that you're a person who has a conception of the good without knowing what that conception is, an interest in being able to choose and revise that conception, and an interest in forming and acting on a sense of justice. So you have to choose some principles. Those principles are going to govern the society that you're going to wake up in. And you have to live with those principles. No second chances. There's no going back. What principles would you choose? Here is a neat illustration of the original position that I found on Wikipedia. Here are you, ignorant of your talents, social class, gender, and so on. You don't know whether you have a red head, whether you're big or small, wear glasses or not, or a whiz at math. And here is the veil of ignorance. Looks more like a border wall than a veil of ignorance, but anyway. And here's how society could turn out, depending on what principles you choose. Here's a quote not from the Rawls reading, excuse me, but from the notes and questions, which gives you a flavour of Rawls' reasons for thinking that you would choose his two principles. Because of the veil of ignorance, you want to be sure that the society is acceptable from the point of view of each person, because you may be that person. You might turn out to be the guy with the red head, or the guy with the cane. In particular, you want to be sure that it will be acceptable even if you land in the lowest social position where it is least likely to be acceptable. So you try to make sure that the minimum position is as good as it can be. This is the assurance that the two principles provide. They ensure that social arrangements are acceptable to each member of society. So Rawls thinks that you would or should choose his two principles. Two questions then for you. First, would you choose Rawls's two principles in the original position? And second, in any case, does the original position provide a good test for principles of justice? At least Lola didn't bother me again. Read Frankfurt and Nozick for Wednesday. Harry Frankfurt, you may know of him from his book On Bullshit, which made quite a splash. He once appeared to discuss it on Jon Stewart's The Daily Show. I'll see you on Wednesday.